For what? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Which one was that? This one?
Yeah.
Shut up.
The human soul is contained in the nerves of the body, but about their physical nature, as a layman, I cannot say more than that they are extraordinarily delicate structures, comparable to the finest filaments, and that the total mental life of a human being rests on their excitability by external impressions. Vibrations are thereby caused in the nerves, which produce the sensation of pleasure and pain in a manner which cannot be further explained. They are able to retain the memory of impressions received, the human memory, and have also the power of moving the muscles of the body, which they inhabit into any manifest activity by exertion of their willpower.
The picture I contain of the nature of God and the continued existence of the human soul after death differs markedly in some respect from the Christian view of this matter. It seems to me that a comparison between the two can only favor the former. God is not omniscient and omnipresent in the sense that he continuously sees inside every individual living person, perceives every feeling of their nerves, that is to say that all time he tries their hearts and brains.
But there's no need for this because after death the nerves of human beings will all impression they have received during life lay bare before God's eye, so that unthankfully just judgment could be reached. In any case, it's always possible for God to get to know the inner person through nerve contact whenever the need arises. The picture I have experienced is how he relaxed and of the future of the severity, of the purposeless cruelty imprinted of some of the notion of the Christian other religions.
The whole order of the world therefore appears as a miraculous structure, the sublime that surpasses, in my opinion, all conceptions which, in the course of history, man and people have developed about their relation to God.
Over time, as the contact established with my nerves became more concrete, the more miracles were directed against me. In the meantime, my doctor had found a way of raising himself up to heaven, either with the whole or with part of his soul, and so made himself manipulator of race without prior death and without undergoing the process of purification. In this way a plot was laid against me, the purpose of which was to hand me over to another human being after my nervous illness had been assumed to be incurable. In this way my soul was handed to him, and my body was transformed into a female body. Misconstruing the order of the world, my body was then left to another human being for sexual misuse and simply forsaken. In other words, my body was left to rot. It is hard to be exactly clear as to what was happened to such a forsaken human being, nor whether this actually meant that. On the other hand, there was a time when soul in nerve contact with me talked of a plurality of heads, that is several individuals on one and the same school, which they encountered in me and from which they shrank in alarm, crying, "For heaven's sake, that is a human being with several heads."
All of candid extraordinary symptoms and illness are present in my body in the course of the time, especially in the rapid change in my sex organ, most nearly in the conscience with the order of the world, with this miracle that when someone is connected with the pressure of the human carry after my entire body.
To them belowed especially the various changes my sex organ. Several times, particularly in the bed, they were marked indication of an actual retraction of the male organ. Frequently, however, particularly when main impure rains were involved, they removed by miracles of a single hairs from my beard, and particularly my moustache. This had the nature of the soul, and therefore when talking begins, they were disgusting according to their place of original as Arian and Catholic scorpions. The former were somewhat bigger and stronger. However, the scorpion regularly withdrew from my head without doing me harm. When they perceived the purity of the nerves and the holiness of my purpose, this was on the innumerable charms which I have often experienced in a similar way. In discussing, then I must return again to the idea of the end of the world.
I have no doubt in any way that my early ideas were ever delusions and hallucinations, because even now I still receive impressions daily and hourly, and know they are real. These reinforced visions make it perfectly clear to me that, in Hamlet's words, there is something rotten in the state of Denmark. That is to say, there is something rotten in the relationship between God and mankind. But how the present state of things developed historically, whether by sudden changes or gradual transition, and to what extent, apart from the manifestations of life caused by the influence of race, miracles, manifestations of life occur independently and uninfluenced by the race, remains even for me an obscure point.
I want to add something about birds created by miracles. It is queer that the individual nerve or soul that are in them appear in the shape of different kind of birds according to the season of the year. The same nerves are in the spring contained in the bodies of finches or other singing birds. In the summer in the bodies of swallow, in the winter in the body of sparrows and crows. I have no doubt about the identity of soul concerning because I know the tone of their voices well, and I recognize all the phrases I regularly hear from them. This naturally leads to the question whether they can possibly have continual life or whether they have to be created anew miracles every day, or perhaps even longer individuals of time. I can only raise, but not answer the question. I observe that the miraculous create birds feed and empty themselves in the manner of natural birds. I will therefore be possible that miraculously create a state and maintain it for time by taking in nourishment. I have also repeatedly observed them building nests in the spring, which appears to point to some power of reproduction. The changes in my whole life during the past years and the former battle of annihilation assume that what kind divine rays are led against me. I will now add some more about the form also vastly change of constant need to compulsive thinking. Compulsive thinking has been defined before as having to think continuously. This contradiction means natural rights or mental relaxation of temporary rest from mental activity to thinking nothing, or as the expression goes in the basic language, it disturbs the basis of human being.
The purpose of not finishing a sentence is consistent with God's attitude to me throughout, to prevent dissolution in my body that would necessarily result from its attraction. While conditions prevailed which were at least somehow in consonance with the false order of the world. Many momentary uniform feelings are enough to make the freely suspended souls jump down from the sky into my mouth, thus ending their independent existence. This is an event I actually experienced repeatedly. But mere intellectual had the same effect. whenever the rays would be led to me, and entering my temporarily increases my body's souls, not finishing has apparently effect the eyes have. In order I held up, could therefore withdraw before voluptuousness, but the attraction to my body completely slows it down.
Voluptuous enjoyment or blessedness is granted to soul in perpetuity and as an end in itself, but to human beings and other living creatures solely as a means for the preservation of the species. Herein lie the moral limitation of voluptuousness for human beings. An excess of voluptuousness would render man unfit to fulfill his other obligation, and it would prevent him from ever rising to either mental and moral perfection. From what I experience of the restorative power of divine rays on my body, I believe that ordinary illness, even external violence, cannot possibly cause my death. If, for instance, I were to fall into water or wished to put a bullet through my head or chest, ideas I of course no longer harbor, I would expect temporary scenes corresponding to those of death, by drawing or unconsciousness following a bullet, which would be fatal in other people. Labor my, of success the overwatched. Someday with stars favorable sense, these in that hope they in now, stop I so and mankind to blessing as come only could that after all lives out the end exist God a living that knowledge certain absolutely the revise be to have would true as accepted hitherto dogmas Christian particularly many if heaven.
The human soul is contained in the nerves of the body, but above their physical nature I cannot say more than that they are extraordinary delicate structures, comparable to the finest filaments, and that the total mental life of a human being rests on their excitability by external impressions. Vibrations have thereby caused to the nerves, which produce a sensation of pleasure and pain in a manner which I cannot further explain. They are able to retain the memory of impression received, the human memory, and have also the power of moving the muscles of the body which they inhabit into any manifest activity by exertion of their willpower. From the most tender beginnings, the fruit they walk of a child's soul, they develop to a complex system which embraces the most disparate regions of human knowledge and the soul of mature man.